Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the franchise guide.
I know everybody says, like, don't get into business based on what you like. I know that I agree with that, because if you hate what you're doing, if you're not passionate a little bit about what you're doing, like, look, I I like home improvement. Like, I'll be honest, like, I love doing renos. I love getting hands on. I love seeing that final product. Like, wow, what a difference! If that doesn't speak to you at all, I mean, see if there's something that does, right? Like, I guess, like, choose your industry, and I wouldn't say, like, have tunnel vision on, like, this is the industry, like, look at other stuff,
Right.
but make sure you feel good about what you're doing. Like, when I speak to top performing franchisees, they almost always tell me the same thing. They're like, I didn't want a boring business. I wanted something that had an impact on the community. I wanted something that put smiles on people's faces and, create good jobs for people, right? And they're like, I'm happy to do this, right? So make sure that it checks the boxes that you want to take off. Like, for me, creating jobs and creating a good culture was key to me, right? Impact on community. Honestly, I never even thought of that, but that's a huge one. I didn't even realize, but that is a huge one, right? Like, some services are cool, but are you really having the impact on the community that you'd
Right.
like to have? Right. So anyways, I'd say, like, everybody talks about boring businesses and everybody talks about, you don't follow your passion. And I agree with that a little bit to some extent, but to some degree, you should.
Right. Yeah, no, that's listen, that, people like the before and after. That's what home service is all about. Redoing a bathroom, spray net, redoing the roof, the exterior colors of the home. So people really enjoy that. And, if you really figure out, one of the questions, if we're not working together, to ask the franchise company, the franchisor, is, hey, what is a day in the life of a franchisee? What does that look like? Because you want to make sure you'll notice in many cases, the roles are going to be similar in many brands, but are you going to be excited? Are you going to be enjoying talking about it? Is it something that's just going to be a grind? Well, you got options. That's why we try to figure out a model. Let's look at kind of the behind the scenes, what you're doing on a daily basis.
Because that's the thing, all things equal, no matter what, you're gonna be grinding your one, right? Let's assume everybody gives great support and you've got a good model and a good community and whatnot. You're gonna be grinding your one. It's gonna suck a little bit, but at the end of the day, are you being fulfilled by what you're doing?
Right. Right.
To an extent, because then it just, like, feels like, why am I even doing this? Right? Like, beyond the money. There needs to be something beyond the money. I know the money is very important, but there needs to be something a little bit beyond the money to keep you going, because it gets tough, and those dark days get really dark.
They do. It's just like the stock market. It's a roller coaster ride. It's ups and downs. It's cyclical. So I always say, go back to the why. That to me is why we started this. Sometimes we need that reminder when things aren't going as planned. And I think we've all experienced that, me included, in my past businesses, current businesses. It's cyclical. So, but absolutely, I think that's really important, and not to lose sight of that. So I always say reverse engineer. Don't look at the brands to start. Look at kind of what the model looks like, what you want to be doing, what's the average day in a life, what are your strengths? Do you want a big staff? Do you want a brick and mortar location? Figure all that out before starting to look at brands. Why? Because when you look at the brand initially, in my opinion, and just like I did, and I won't name names, but in the restaurant business, you start to settle. I don't want to work nights and weekends, but I'll settle because I have to work nights and weekends. I don't want lots of staff, but I'll settle. So I kept settling to the point where, the business looked nowhere near what my ideal business looked like. So figure that out. I definitely help and spend a lot of time there, but you don't need me to initiate that. Start with that short list, get your financials together. That's a good start. Reach out. We can absolutely help and figure out what the brands are. And sometimes we find the perfect brand, and guess what? Franchises are territory based. Maybe the area isn't available. So if you really like a brand, are you open to exploring, a 30 minutes away, 45 minutes away? These are the things that come up in franchising, and this is what I like to prepare people for. So that's awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, just to add on that, like, I've been doing this for almost 15 years now, and it's funny, what lights me up is testimonial Tuesdays and before and now pictures that people post on our internal social. Like, you should see, and I may have sent you some, but, like, so our franchisees are like, the customer was thrilled in caps, and then they put the review, and the customer's review is just glowing, and it's like, that fuels you, right? That keeps you going. Like, to be able to provide that service to people, make them that happy. And then you get we've even had staff say, like, I had staff like, why do you keep coming to work? And they're like, to smile on customers' faces. Like, it's a
Right.
different project, different challenge every day. Anyways, I'm not here to just toot my own horn here about brand, but just, that's what keeps me going. So it's find that thing that keeps you going.
Right.
So anyways,
Yeah. Yeah, you got to give that some thought and reflect. And sometimes I always say, like, when do you do all this? You got family, you got work. I always say, during the week it's busy. Take time on the weekend, sleep in a little bit, spend some time there. That's where I did a lot of my deep thinking, because during the week you got a million things going on. But really, set aside an hour, figuring that out. Let the family know, if you're married. Let your spouse know. Let the kids know why you're doing all this. I talk about this quite a bit. I think that's crucial. Gonna be, mom and dad are going to be working a lot longer. Maybe no vacation this year as we launch the business, but we're doing it to obviously, create some time freedom so we can spend a lot more time with you guys, have a flexible schedule, just like I do. We're big soccer fans, and I don't, miss my son's soccer matches, whatsoever. We go to practices, we record with those AI cameras. I'm the guy in charge of that, and I really enjoy doing that. So sometimes that time freedom is really what people are trying. There's only 24 hours. We have the same equal, even in Canada, you guys have the same amount of time. So, so it's like, in all seriousness, we have the same amount of time. So how do we free it up so we can really spend the days as we see fit, as we want to spend them. Best piece of advice you have ever received?
it's a TED talk actually. I change this every time someone asks me a question, depending on what's going on.
What did you say in the last show?
You know, but just based on this week, based on something that just came to mind this morning is be a giver. There's a TED talk by Adam Grant, Givers versus Takers. If you haven't seen it, I was strongly suggest watching it. Give to the world, give to others, be generous of your time. Be a giver, not a taker. And that ties into what I've been talking about the whole time. Like, something that you see yourself not just taking cash, not just being a giver to society, to community, creating jobs. I strongly believe that if you're a giver in the long run, maybe not in the short term, this always work, but in the long run, it'll come back to you. So just be a giver and not a taker.
And that's Adam Graham TED Talk, you said?
Adam Grant. Yeah.
Oh, Grant.
There's a,
Right.
yeah, there's a 15-minute TED talk. I strongly suggest watching it. I talk about it all the time because it's just so true. And you feel it when people are just taking, when people are giving. So be generous with your time, with everything, right? And it'll come back to you.
Love that. I'm gonna look that up, and we'll put the YouTube link on in the show notes. Anything else we didn't talk about? Sorry, I got a little feedback. Anything else we didn't talk about? Got a lot of first time entrepreneurs or people looking to, leave the corporate grind to start their own business. Any other pieces of advice that you would like to leave the audience with?
I know it's cliche, but like, if you're thinking about it all the time, just do something about it. You don't want to like wake up 10 years from now and just be regretting it. Is it going to be the right choice? Maybe, maybe not. Like it may be harder than you think. But at the end of the day, would you rather just live with regret, thinking like I should have or I could have? Just try. I mean, I know it's easy to say I'm an entrepreneur. That's just the way I'm wired. But man, just do it.
And we all took risks. I mean, there is no guarantees that we'll have our job. There's no guarantees the business will succeed. But going back to TED Talks, and I forget the speaker, but grit. There's a TED Talk on grit, and it talks about just this unwavering persistence to just make things happen. Understanding there's going to be the ups and downs, like the being cyclical and that kind of stuff. But just making this is the life I want. These are the changes. In order for me to have these changes, I need to really take control of my career. So it definitely won't be easy. It's going to be a lot of hours. As I tell everyone, I don't like to paint a picture where you just buy a franchise and what is it? I don't know if you remember back in the day, the Ron Popeil, set it and forget it. You just throw this stuff in the machine and it makes the sausage links for you. It's nothing like that. You have to be involved. It's not just you pay the franchise fee, the franchisor runs the business. They would need you for that, right? They need you to have that grit and really to work the business, follow the system. So, but I encourage everyone to explore it. Start talking to other franchise owners, entrepreneurs, not people that never own the business. Talk to people that own the business. You want to know how the ups and downs. How does it feel not paying yourself maybe the first month? How does it feel 2 years later when you're never missing, I don't know, a dance recital, a soccer event, and things like that? So talk to those people at different stages in life. I think that's super helpful, but ultimately it's what you make of it. You got to do your due diligence, but you got to start somewhere. And to your point, don't want to live with any regrets. And I see a lot of people coming back to me 20, 30 years of looking into it. Maybe they're fearing losing their job. Now they're in their 50s and 60s saying, is this the right time to own a business? Because I feel like, the end is near with the
Right.
job I have. So absolutely. No, that's awesome. I really appreciate that. I'm going to put that in the show notes. Good.
Nice. Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, there is no magic bullet. It's just about trying something. Like, we've been franchising for so long now that, like, we've gotten a bit more selective on who we want to let in, just because, like you should do, like, let's say you're exploring a franchise or whatnot. It's, do I feel comfortable working with these people? And actually, my litmus test is, do I feel like if times get really tough, that I can have a reasonable conversation with this person? And if the answer is not, without a doubt, no, yes, then maybe it's not a fit, right? And it goes both ways. Like, I always tell people, like, yes, we're exploring if you're the right fit, but you also need to be exploring if we're the right fit for you, right? Like, we got to see ourselves working together for 10 years.
Two-way. I always say it's a two-way interview. It's a two-way street. And a big part of any franchisor is you want to speak directly, whether it's in person or it's virtually, with the founder. So that would be Carmelo in this case. But talk to I always say that the way I explain it is talk to the captain steering the ship. Because, SprayNet, whatever the franchise is, you kind of know historically what has been done. You have the franchise agreements. This is our system. But where is this business going? What do you anticipate? Challenges, additional services, whatever the case may be, maybe changes to marketing, working with another company like Lowe's. It's good to know and speak directly with the founders. And
I actually host calls every 2 weeks with potential candidates. I actually had a really good call last week. I think we were 8 people on the call, and it's actually fun because, some people piggyback off each other's questions.
Yeah.
We have a good conversation. And honestly, it creates content for us too. Like, I didn't think people had a question about that, right? Like, maybe we should put content on about that, because a lot of people have questions about that. So it's actually fun for me, fun for the group. And we kind of get to see, who do you connect with? Who do you not connect with? And that's, and that's how we invite people to the next stage in our process.
I think that's huge because, I know there have been other companies where the founder, basically you meet them at the very end. You don't speak with them, you meet them at the very end. And at that point, it's like, that's kind of decision time, right? Either you get accepted, you obviously have to agree to the award letter, number of territories, locations, whatever the franchise is. So I think that's crucial in the process for the founders to be involved and not wait till the very end to say, yeah, maybe you weren't a good fit. And I probably could have told you this 2 calls in, and vice versa. That the person exploring may say, love the brand, love everything about it. But the founder, I think we just differences of opinion. Maybe I kind of feel like it should go in this direction. They're going in a different, and that's fine. It's not about right or wrong. It's about the match. So I love that. So I think that's what we're seeing more and more of, that where founders are involved early on in the process. And when people say, well, what are the odds of getting approved? And I always say the odds, in my personal opinion, should be pretty high, because at that point, if you've made it that far to get, invited to a discovery, virtual or in-person discovery day, then, you've checked off boxes on both ends, and there usually is a higher approval process, as opposed to never talking to the founder and going in blind, not knowing. So, not that it's guaranteed, but you are at the end of the day awarded a franchise. You are awarded a select number of territories. So, keep that in mind as well. You want to speak with founders, or maybe even request to speak with the founder, or maybe it's like in a group setting like you guys are doing. So I think that's a big plus.
Ready to explore the SprayNet franchise opportunity and potentially join a giving and impactful business? Visit ggthefranchiseguide.com to learn more and take your first step towards franchise freedom.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.